Welcome to the So Much More podcast, where we talk with people in the custom window treatment, soft home furnishings industry, and so much more. I'm your host, Ciel DeGuglielmo. My guest on the podcast today is Mandy Szigethy. She discovered upholstery while completing her theater technology degree at Indiana University and decided to forsake the stage in favor of the workshop. She has had the unique opportunity to work in both furniture manufacturing at Beachley Furniture and now custom upholstery as the owner of Rose City Upholstery in Portland, Oregon. She has received training in both modern materials and traditional methods, and she is able to apply time-tested techniques to all of her projects. Her passion for revitalizing and repurposing home furnishings has led to an in-depth, if unintentional, comparison between older and newer furniture and an eye for the unseen potential of any antique store or curbside find. Mandy is also one of the co-owners of Upholstery Education, and I interviewed Mandy, Marta, and Justin just a few weeks ago. So if you haven't had a chance to listen to that podcast, I think you'll really enjoy hearing about what education means to them and where they're going with it. But I really hope that you enjoy hearing from Mandy and hearing about her journey today. Mandy, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today. I really appreciate it.
Sure thing.
We spoke once before, well, we've spoken in person, but we spoke once before when you and the other owners of Upholstery Education were on the podcast. And I just started thinking, well, I'd like to know more about you and your business and how you got started. So if you could introduce yourself, except this time, I'm going to say my guest is Mandy Szigethy, because I practiced saying your name.
Nicely done, yes.
So you don't have to say your last name this time as you did last time.
All right.
Just tell us a little bit about where you are in the world, what your business is like, and a little bit about yourself.
Sure. My name is Mandy. I am the owner of Rose City Upholstery in Portland, Oregon. Lovely Portland, Oregon, I might add. It is wonderful here this time of year. Let's see here. My shop is I work in a warehouse, and we have 5 employees at this point. We do mostly residential upholstery, but we do some commercial work. Uh, nothing, nothing international, but we'd had some fun projects, a couple of hotels. The Timberline Lodge was one of our clients for a long time, which people may know from the movie The Shining.
Mm-hmm.
Our work is not in that movie, but
oh, that's too bad. Or maybe it isn't.
yeah, before we got to it, sure.
Okay.
I am a dog mom, which hopefully will not come through on the audio at any point in this.
Never a problem if it does.
And I've been the owner of Rose City Upholstery since 2012.
And Mandy, did you purchase the business or did you develop it yourself?
So Rose City Upholstery has been a part of the Portland furniture scene since the mid 20th century, I believe. I don't have the exact dates, but it was previously a company owned by a family named Lang. And they did custom manufactured pieces here in Portland. This whole Pacific Northwest area, which I am not native to, actually. I'm originally from the East Coast.
Okay.
And so coming here, it was really interesting to find out that there were all of these kind of micro manufacturers in this area because there is so much lumber and logging. It was very easy for frames to be built, and there were a lot of small scale furniture manufactories, of which Rose City Upholstery was one. And when I moved here in 2009, I was looking for work, as you do, and there was an ad in the paper for this place. And the man who was running it at the time had worked at the original Rose City Upholstery manufacturing plant. And when the family decided to, for whatever reason, step away from the business, he purchased the business and had been running it since then. He decided to retire in 2012, and I had the opportunity to purchase the business from him. And to me, I thought that was a bit of a no-brainer. If that opportunity was present, this is a company that's existed for decades and has a recognizable brand. We still see pieces that have the original upholstery sticker, like our tag underneath the cushion. So we get those in occasionally. And so there's still a good deal of brand recognition here in town, which Portland is known as the Rose City. So it's kind of that's where that name comes from.
Okay, I was not sure about that. So thank you for telling me that. So when you applied for the job there, did you have upholstery skills?
I had been working at Beachley Furniture in Hagerstown, Maryland prior to moving out here. And so, and prior to that, my experience was in theater. I was a theater kid in high school and college, and
Okay.
I worked in scenery mostly, but you have to be really strong to be doing scenery. And I
Yes, you
found that I
do.
really don't enjoy the feeling of sawdust in my socks. So scenery was not a natural fit for me.
Okay.
But then working in the props department, I got to do a lot of things with furniture and soft furnishings and even drapery to a certain extent. And I really enjoyed that a lot. So the main part of my job when I was doing professional theater was finding and upholstering furniture pieces for each of the shows.
Okay.
And so that's where I kind of dipped my toes in the water. Working at Beachley, I was where you actually refine that because in
Okay.
theater, we have this saying about this looks great from 15 feet away on a galloping horse.
Exactly where my
And
mind went right away. Like it could look
so,
okay
yeah,
on stage,
there's a
but
lot of hot glue involved,
okay.
and then going to Beachley where this was their line of furniture, and I got to learn on their line of furniture and was doing reupholstery there. That's where I was able to get a better sense of what quality needed to be and what it looked like, and what the foundation was.
Okay.
And I was super lucky in that regard because I think a lot of people who start out, myself included, to a certain extent, we get to look at something that's maybe not in its best shape. That's why it's getting reupholstered, something that's really beaten down or something that's really falling to pieces. Whereas learning to build up on a new frame, that's a really valid skill that not a lot of
Right.
us get to start with.
Right.
So that was really great.
One of the things that fascinates me, Mandy, is how different all of our paths are to getting to where we are. And I have to wonder how many people have had that opportunity. Like you said, most of the reupholstery pieces that we get to see, they've been through hell and back again, or
Yeah.
they've been much loved.
Hmm.
And, maybe there's some nicks and dings in the wood, but they have a special memory. And so that's all okay. But to get the opportunity to see it from truly start to finish must have been a great education.
It was fantastic. And it's, to see the skill of the people putting these things together too,
Right.
because I know to a certain extent manufacturing has a little bit of a poor reputation amongst the more purist upholsterers. Oh yeah, that's mass produced. It's not
Right.
any good. And that was not my experience at Beachley. They made beautiful hardwood frames. They
Right.
were doing 8-way hand tied foundations. So, seeing something manufactured in an artisanal way that was a great way to look and see and to know when I see something else what I'm looking at is good. What I'm looking at needs this because I was able to see that from the ground up.
Okay. What a great entry into the industry. How long did you work at Rose City before the opportunity to purchase it came?
About 2.5 years.
Okay. And at that point, I'm curious. A lot of us went into this going, oh, I have the skill, or I'm pretty good at this, or I have a passion for this. Then we find out what it's like to run a business. And those are different skills and different things. But were you seeing the back end of how to run a business long before you made this choice? How did that come about?
Well, it's kind of two different ways. But growing up, my parents were self-employed, so I
Okay.
did have a certain amount of framework to know what that looked
Right.
like. And the owner, prior to offering the business for sale, was, kind of mentally retired already to a certain
Okay.
extent. And I'm definitely a person that when you hand me more responsibility, I say, great, cool. And I just grab it and go. And so I was winding up doing sales and things, not really having done that before
Okay.
because, he was off doing something else. So I learned kind of by doing, and then we had a really nice conversation when we were actually doing the paperwork for the sale. He's like, you're not going to make a profit on every job, but you can try really hard to make a profit on most jobs.
Okay.
And, having that that kind of reminder that it's not always going to be perfect. Not everything is going to go beautifully on every project. That was kind of like it was a weight off of your shoulders, because if you
Okay.
are even adjacent to perfectionist,
Yeah.
you could get really disheartened when things aren't going well, particularly as you're starting out. But I've also had to kind of pivot a little as the owner. It used to be the shop staff was smaller. I've got more people to support me now. So what I have to do on a daily basis isn't as much upholstery as it used to be, and is a lot more sales, admin,
Mhm.
HR, all of
Yeah.
the other things that you do as a business owner.
Right. And how many employees do you have?
Let's see here. I right now we have, let's see here, one person doing tear down. I have three full-time upholsterers. I have an office manager, and I have a woman who's actually helping out with the sewing through Christmas, and
Okay.
then myself. You
Okay.
know.
How often do you have to step in and do the business?
Well, I mean, I honestly doing the business is about 90% of my day in most
Okay.
cases. I don't have a bench in the shop myself anymore.
Okay.
But there are, on the days that some of my other folks aren't around, sometimes I'll sneak in and, stuff a cushion, you know,
Okay.
do some steaming, whatever needs to be done, cut some things for a seamstress, whatever that needs doing. But I have found that the business itself is time consuming enough that taking on an entire project from start to finish is only feasible if there is no deadline whatsoever. And that is rarely the case.
Okay. Yeah. And that makes sense. And I've heard that from other people as well. It takes significantly longer for you to get a job done than someone else because you get interrupted with the running of the business. Yeah.
Exactly.
So, was it a difficult decision to purchase this? How did it feel when that opportunity came up?
Well, I mean, they say, an opportunity knocks, and it was knocking pretty loudly. This was
Okay.
the backstory is that the business was offered to another person before me, another employee, and
Okay.
they opted to take an opportunity doing something else.
Okay.
And this was, I mean, it was obviously a very difficult choice for the owner because he enjoyed being, he liked doing this, but
Mhm.
also he didn't want to have to do it all the time.
Right.
So for me, when I first moved to Portland, I didn't really find that the upholstery community here was particularly inviting.
Okay.
There was a lot of kind of what I would call old school upholstery shops where it was one person and they didn't want anybody else, or it was a
Right.
family and they were only working within the family.
Right.
So finding work outside, none of the shops were really looking for help, despite the fact that I consider this just as much as, Portland is considered to be a book city because we've got Powell's, it's really
Yeah.
big on books. It is also kind of a furniture city. We've got lots and lots of places working on furniture. It seemed like there was a lot of opportunity and a lot of work out there to be had.
Mhm.
And this was kind of the way I was like, well, I don't know that I'll be able to find a job at another shop. I don't,
Right.
I walked around and talked to a lot of folks, and that wasn't really in the cards. And since this was something that I was able to do, it was kind of a no-brainer.
Okay.
My parents did it. My parents were builders. My mom was trained as a teacher. My dad had a music major. So doing what they were trained to do is not what they wound up doing. So
Okay.
kind of thinking outside the box in that way was not scary to me at all.
Okay. Yeah, you had a great example.
Mm-hmm.
So, we've seen over the past, I'd say, 10 years, that there's been a big change in the community of the upholstery business.
Mm-hmm.
And I've watched it from the point of view of the window treatments and soft furnishings arena, where there was a lot of sharing very early on once people knew there were other people doing it. It
Yeah.
wasn't as visible as the upholstery shops, but once people found each other, they were very sharing. And to any of the men listening, I apologize, but this seems to be more of a female based thing where women are willing to share information even to upholstery shops that are up the street or
Yeah.
around the corner, because you can help each other out. And there seems to be more and more of that in the upholstery industry as time has gone by. Have you seen in your area that some of these shops that were not as willing to share, are they still around? Are they still
Mm.
open? What's happening there?
Well, we seem to have lost in whatever way, I'd say probably four or five of the more well-known shops closed right at the beginning of the pandemic. They
Okay.
kind of saw the writing on the wall and thought, there's no way we're going to survive this. And so they retired early or went to do something else.
Okay.
And I feel like those were probably the kind of what I'm calling old school shops, the one person shops.
Yeah.
And, you know, as most people in this industry, I'm sure will say, had a very busy, very lucrative
Yes.
pandemic.
Yes.
And so the people who remained did well. And, to your point, and once again, apologizing to the gentleman, the shops that closed were mostly single person older fellas.
Mhm.
And the shops that remained seemed to be women owned in a younger demographic.
Okay.
And, kind of one of the things that I had wanted to do as part of as being a business owner here was to start to kind of create a little more community,
Mhm.
because I didn't want anybody to come into this town and have the same experience that I had, where you could go in and you could talk shop for an hour, but you're not going to get a job from it. It's
Right.
people are willing to chat, but they're not willing to hire. So, if I've decided, oh, yes, we were going to do something actually early in the pandemic, and then everything locked down. But we've done meetups in this area of, shop owners in our area, but also up into Washington. I've even had a couple people drive up from California,
Okay.
because it's good to put faces on things. It's good to share resources.
Right.
And, I've got a couple other shops here in town that we chat on social media quite a bit. And,
Mhm.
if I need a GIMP color I have people I can call. If they run out of buttons, they call me.
Right.
We have a really good relationship, and these women are amazing, and I'm really happy to call them my colleagues.
Okay. I'm always happy to hear that because I had the same situation running my workroom, that there were people who were close by. I could jump in my car and go to their workroom and buy a supply or borrow something or borrow their time. And
Yeah.
I had people work in my workroom with me and I would do the same for them. And we took classes together in each other's
Hmm.
workrooms. And it's just, and knowing how you feel about the education part of it, I'm not surprised to hear that, but that thrills me to hear that you were able to develop that. So I'm curious about the taking over of an existing business. There are employees who are there
Hmm.
and they've been there. And
Hmm.
how was that? I mean, you didn't just walk in the door and buy it, you were
No.
part of the company.
Yeah.
How was that process? Did it go well?
It did. One of the things about the previous ownership is there was kind of a lot of turnover, and it wasn't like turnover and then never see these people again. Is there were a lot of people coming and going through,
Okay.
and some of that was the fluctuation of the work. A lot of the people that I met when I first worked here, this was not their only job.
Okay.
There were musicians who would do this during the day, between gigs. There were folks that worked as bartenders, things like that. So this was something that was kind of almost a side hustle, not really a side hustle, like that.
Gotcha.
So, those folks weren't necessarily married to this as a position anyway. So when I took over the shop, it was myself, and the previous owner actually stayed on for a few months so that he could do upholstery, which is something, as a lot of us do. He was not doing that at the time.
Right, right.
He had me, and then there was another upholsterer who he worked for me actually until he retired. So, we had a very small shop staff in a very big space. And but the relationships were good, and so Lupe stayed with me until he retired in 2015.
Okay.
And since then we've had people come and go. We've trained some interns. We've had some people come through as temps. So there is still a certain amount of turnover, but at this point I've been here 13 years. One would expect that anyway.
Right, right. Are you seeing much interest from the next generation?
Yeah, actually, most of the people that have come through my shop have been younger. So,
Okay.
maybe late 20s,
Yay.
early 30s. Yeah.
Yay.
I would say probably about, I've had some very promising people. Some of them had been previously trained. I had one woman I worked with for a while whose mom actually has a shop in Michigan, and she had moved out here for a little while and she knew how to do upholstery. So she was doing that here. But I'd say about 50% of the folks underestimated what an upholstery shop actually does and what
Okay.
work is involved. That being said, right now I've got, let's see here, one person under the age of 25. I've got two people under the age of 40, and I've got four people over the age of 40.
Okay.
So we're about half and half. And, the young people, particularly my youngest, actually, she is incredibly, she learned at another shop before coming here. We had another shop, one of our, I don't want to say competitors, but another shop that is of a similar scale to this
Mhm.
one. The owner decided she wanted to do something different. So she closed up about 2 years ago, but she had trained my youngest upholsterer, and she also had already had a background in sewing. So she took to this like a fish to water. It was really amazing to see.
Okay. When you're training someone new, especially someone who has some upholstery experience, have you found much difference in the methods and the styles and the quality control? Have there been any problems for you in saying, okay, that's great, but that's not how we do that here? Have you experienced any of that?
Sometimes, but not lately.
Okay.
We've got one of my senior upholsterers was actually the mentor for my youngest upholsterer, and
Okay.
so that was a very, very symbiotic relationship. They work well together, and they have a great relationship just in general. So the the work that I am seeing from this person who has been in the business for over 50 years and does amazing work is kind of reflected in my younger people's work because they are learning from someone who has just got such great technique.
That's wonderful. I love hearing that. So when you took over, were there any changes you made right away? Like, I can't wait to change this. This is my business now. What was there anything like that? Did you wait till the former owner left? Like, how did you do that?
I definitely did do that. The former owner was not he didn't have a very fun relationship with computers. So definitely we became more responsive on email.
Okay.
We were having people send in photos rather than calling up and bringing things by.
Okay.
It was definitely, I was very, because I hadn't done this before, I definitely was very conscious and respectful of all of the things that he had established.
Mm,
The quality, of course, was the thing that made us stand out for a lot of our customers, and that was something obviously that wasn't going to change.
right.
So the only thing I can think of that I actually just really, really, really needed to fix, and I didn't actually do it until this year, was the sign on our van, which was so verbose. I didn't know how anybody could possibly get all that information as we were driving by.
Okay.
And for some reason, the sign company put a hyphen between re and upholstery, and that just drove me bonkers. So I finally got new signs for the van this year, and it was, well overdue.
Okay. That's almost the exact opposite of the theater idea of you can't see it from 15 away on 15
Yeah.
feet on a galloping horse. You can't read this standing in front of it.
Mm-mm. Yeah,
That's
it was too
really fun.
much.
Okay. So, what have been some of the biggest challenges for you in taking over another business and then continuing to run it?
Um, I mean, pivoting, obviously, anytime we have to kind of address our standards and practices and say, at this point, the way the market is, the way the skills we have currently, this, whatever it is that we are doing is not serving us at this point.
Okay.
And those are things that, I have a dog, and so a lot of my business contemplation happens while I'm walking the dog, which is for good because I actually do have the time to think about it, but that does not mean I can write it down. So, thinking about, okay, what are we doing that's working well? What are we doing that's not working well? And how to create different standards and practices that will help
Mhm.
without having to retrain everybody. So that becomes a little bit of a challenge. Obviously turnover, that's a challenge to any business.
Right.
When Lupe left and retired, that was the day I cried a lot. So,
Yes.
it was wonderful to have such a great and talented person with us. And now he does subcontracting for us. So, but yeah, those are probably the two things that are the most challenging that we've experienced through this time period that I've been here.
Okay. Did you ever consider quitting?
No, but the longer I do this, the more the thoughts of retiring and what that looks like come to
Okay.
mind, as with most of us, I
Yeah,
suppose.
of course.
Having a big shop and having employees is very different from when I started out in my shed in my backyard in Maryland. So, do I think about, well, is this the direction I want to go? And we are filling a very specific niche here. We don't have a lot of larger scale shops here. So, a one person shop can't pick up an entire, hotel lobby worth of furniture and get it turned around in a time frame when the client can actually spare it. Whereas
Right.
we can, which is great. But if I was by myself, I don't know that I would want to do hotel lobbies.
And I've seen some upholsterers who owned a shop like yours scale back to just doing work for themselves
Mm-hmm.
as they hit retirement. But I think that upholstery work specifically is a lot harder on our bodies than even the window treatment end of things.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm always impressed when I hear people say like upholstering into my retirement, and I'm thinking, oh, that's when I want to stop. Because I'm not sure my body is going to keep handling it.
Well, the office hiatus has kind of helped with that, So now most of, if I had carpal tunnel, which I apparently do not, it would be from typing at this point, not from,
Okay.
staple pulling.
Yes. The sponsors of the So Much More podcast allow me to bring guests to you each week. And without them, I couldn't do it. I'm pleased as the owner of the Curtains and Soft Furnishings Resource Library that I can use the library to help sponsor the podcast as well. The library hosts the industry's largest curated collection of educational resources for the custom home furnishings professional. Membership to the library gives you access to a wealth of downloadable reference materials, videos, live events, as well as a community of support to help you develop your design, sales, and fabrication skills, and to grow or start a business. Join the library today at csfrl.org. The Workroom Channel is the premier online training provider for professional fabrication skills. Go to theworkroomchannel.com to browse the selection of anytime access courses created by industry experts. Watch detailed demonstration videos, download companion materials, and participate in private course discussion boards with your instructor and classmates from around the world. Start your course path today at theworkroomchannel.com. Education, networking, visibility, and industry discounts are just a few of the benefits that are offered to members of the Window Covering Association of America. The WCAA is the only national nonprofit trade association that's dedicated to the window coverings industry and the dealers, decorators, workrooms, designers, and installers that make up our membership. The library is a gold level sponsor of the WCAA. Join today at WCAA.org. WCAA, where you are never in business alone. Discover Klimaka Studios, where innovation meets exceptional design. Klimaka fabric and wallpaper collections are inspired by the original works of collaborating artists and developed with the understanding of how fabrics are manipulated into exquisite soft home furnishings. Workroom businesses enjoy exclusive access to engineered designs and best trade pricing. From clever layouts to classic linen prints, Klimaka Studios delivers the quality and consistency that your business demands. And Klimaka's reliable, on-time delivery keeps your projects running smoothly. Go to klimakastudios.com for swatches and trade account information. Klimaka Studios, for the joy and profit of workrooms. What's your definition of success, Mandy?
Oh, I guess feeling comfortable enough in what you're doing that you feel confident and, both within your skill set, but also financially,
Hmm.
and that means different things to different people.
Right.
I don't want a boat. I don't want an RV, I feel like we're very successful here, but I don't need the stuff. And those aren't signs of success to me personally.
Okay. Okay. I love that answer. And I love that I almost never get the same answer twice. Based on that definition, what has been the biggest success in your business so far?
Hmm. That's, well, once we started growing staff, as we'd never had, this is the largest number of staff members we've had.
Okay.
And the the commensurate escalation of what we're able to accomplish was a big surprise to me, and to the point where I really didn't have any expectations with the additional people. I thought, well, okay, one of them obviously is going to be replacing me on the bench, so that will be an even trade, and then one additional person. How much additional work can one more person do? Well, the answer is, if they don't have to do all the things that I was doing at the time, quite a bit, really.
Right. Right.
So, having more people to help with the workload, it is actually that has necessitated making sales and admin a full-time job,
Okay.
because we have grown so much, and now we have a different set of skills than we did 2 years ago, and we're able to take on different types of work. And
Mhm.
so that was another pivot, but that happened naturally, and it was great.
Okay. I love that. The When you are in a position to have employees, they have to be trained, and mistakes happen as a part of the training process.
Hmm.
But once things are in full swing and a mistake happens, I'd love to know how you handle it, if it's your mistake or someone else's mistake.
Well, I'm all about fixing things. I mean, there's no, hair shirt and, pulling my hair out kind of thing. It's, well, how did it happen? Do we know why? And
Mhm.
what can we do to fix it? It doesn't have to be a high drama thing.
Okay.
And, you know, if there's a solution, let's just make it happen. Let's do what we can.
Okay.
So, because it happens, and you can either make it into something horrible, or you can learn from it and keep going.
And I also think, Mandy, that when you're in charge of someone else and you have that drama around a mistake, it only makes them feel worse and
Hmm.
it doesn't fix the situation. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
Mandy, are you a book reader?
I am.
Okay. Do you have any books that you would recommend?
Well, not to plug Upholstery Education again, but
However,
however, we have an incredible library that we are working with, and we've been trying to put some posts up on our social media of different books that we have within our library that we collectively have used a lot.
Mhm.
The David James books obviously are kind of a benchmark in our industry that's
Mhm.
everybody has at least one, I think. And so those are always ones that come out. But I did read a blurb recently about a book called Crafts. I might actually have to look it up on my phone. It's Crafts People or Crafts World. And it is about all different kinds of kind of heritage crafts that are kind of going on the wayside. And there are
Oh.
only one or two people in the world who are still doing them, things like that. So, and it sounds really interesting, and it really gels with what upholstery is.
Mhm.
Um, Craftland by James Fox. And this just came up on my social media feed recently, and it sounds amazing and is something I'm really excited to read, and will probably be gifting to people at Christmas.
Looks like I have another book to read too.
There you go. Yes.
That's great. Thank you. You mentioned that the former owner was not really great with computers. Do you use much technology now in your business?
I do, to the extent that I am comfortable.
Yeah.
I'm not one of the people that's kind of dipping their toes in AI at this point. I haven't had any cause to,
Hmm.
but we do, for the business, we do most of our order origins are through email contacts. We have a very active website. We're doing a lot of social media. So, in that regard, we do have a presence online that's pretty
Okay.
established. But I'm not there's a really nice upholsterer kind of south of here who has this incredible website where you can plug in all sorts of information and essentially create this custom order just through the information on his website. And it is a thing of beauty, and I barely understand it. And I don't ever I appreciate so much that he has done that, because that is something he's very enthusiastic about, but that is a level of tech that I don't aspire to.
Okay. I love that. I don't aspire to. I always like asking a question about the tools that we use. What three items could you not live without in your business?
Um, well, let's see here. My garage, because that's where all of the finished work goes and stays out of the workshop. I do a feature every Friday on our Instagram, What's in the Garage, so people can see the finished pieces that we
I
have put
love
out that
that.
week. I've turned it into a hashtag. No one else has picked it up yet, so we kind of cornered the market in that regard. So yeah, that's definitely, I could not live without. Obviously my laptop, as I sit here talking with you, that it's never far from my hands. And a good pair of scissors.
Yeah.
There's a good pair of sharp scissors, doesn't have to be anything fancy. That's the way I can get through a day.
Okay. I love that. Do you get to do any upholstery just for pleasure?
I have actually adopted a chair off of Facebook Marketplace that is going to be a fun project for me. I am currently stopped at the picking fabric level. I don't want to tear it apart until I actually have something that I can start to put on it at some
Okay.
point. But it is a Turkish ironback chair that I got for $15, and that is going to be my fun project, probably for at least 2 years at the rate that I go.
Okay.
Um, but I'm very excited to play with it.
Don't you think it's really hard to pick fabric for ourselves?
It is, especially if you have something in mind that doesn't exist.
Right.
So I'm still looking. At some point, I will find something, but I also have five little voices in my ears as I walk by with samples going, "Oh, you don't want to use that, do you? Don't you already have enough blue in your house? Oh, no."
Yeah. We are a pain in the neck to pick fabrics for.
It's true.
What's your favorite thing to make or do in the workroom?
I would say I really enjoy a good slipcover project or a good dressmaker skirt.
Okay.
I guess I started out doing more sewing than upholstering, so that's
Mhm.
kind of where I still consider my strengths to be.
Okay.
And there's just a lot of little noodly things, and I did enough drapery that I appreciate a really nicely pressed seam and, a nice crisp edge. So
Okay.
those are definitely my favorites.
All right. I love that. What do you do extremely well, Mandy?
Hmm, what do I do extremely well? I honestly, surprisingly enough, I'd have to say helping people pick fabric. I'm pretty good at that.
Okay.
I
Just not
didn't,
for yourself.
just not for me, no, because I know what's in here. Whereas
Yes.
I feel pretty confident, when people come in with certain ideas and limitations and challenges
Right.
that, because I did work in a bookstore for a while prior
Okay.
to moving here, and my sample room is full of sample books. So I kind of feel like I am still working in a bookstore to a certain
Yeah.
extent. I am trying to find the story that works for the customer in front of me.
Okay.
And we get so excited when new books come in. We leaf through them, we look at all the new patterns and stuff. So it's like we got to read most of these stories beforehand. We just need to find the one that's for this person.
Okay. I love that. I love that. What do you not do so well?
Uh, well, I don't consider myself a very good trainer. I have enough industry experience that a lot of things in the process of upholstery have become kind of, I don't want to say thoughtless because that sounds negative, but just second nature, I guess. And so
Right.
having to remember each step and vocalize each step
Right.
without it just going, some of it's muscle memory by this point.
Right. Right.
So I find myself, if I am trying to show somebody something, that I have to backtrack a lot, which is not a good way to train. It's not
Okay.
a good way for a person to learn. So it's part of the reason why I appreciate people who are good at teaching and training, is because I know that that is a very hard thing to do.
Okay. Okay. What about you would surprise people?
I like watching Philadelphia Eagles football.
Go Birds!
Go Birds, right?
I live right outside of Philadelphia, Mandy.
Very nice, very nice. Yes, we're doing
Why?
well this
Why
year.
them?
I grew up in South Jersey,
Oh,
and
perfect. Okay.
yeah, so I was steeped in Midnight Green for the good formative years of my life.
Okay.
So, and it's actually, it's kind of fun now that I have the time. When I was in theater, you were on stage the whole time, so I
Right.
didn't get to watch football during that part of my career, but now I have the time, and it's a lot of fun, and it's,
Okay.
there's camaraderie, and I get to say "Go Birds" to other people, and they go,
Yes.
"Oh my gosh,"
And it's so
and
fun.
it's so fun. Exactly.
In what ways do you think you're resilient?
Well, it takes a lot to give up on stuff,
Hmm.
and I do like a noodly problem. I do like to come up with solutions. So, trying to figure out ways to bounce back from a setback,
Hmm.
if you haven't gotten that emotional ugh that kind of develops from something negative, the challenge of figuring out a solution is actually a really good brain exercise.
Yeah.
So, and it's something I enjoy, oh, that didn't work. What can we do to make it work?
Okay.
So,
I like that mindset. I think that's great. Having come into this business and then purchasing it, if someone were to come to you and say, I'm going to start my own business, what traits would you think they needed to have to be an entrepreneur?
I would say, I mean, the people that I see who are the most successful entrepreneurs have a vision of some sort.
Okay.
Um, but I think they also need to have a certain basis in reality too. So a kind of a
Mhm.
balance of the dreamer and the realist.
Right.
Because, obviously you need to be somewhat creative to do what we do anyway. There's a certain element of artisticness is not a
Absolutely.
word, that is involved in upholstery and drapery, and problem solving, and just knowing what something is going to look like when it's done. We're sculptors, kind of.
Yeah.
So having an artistic mindset, having a good ability to visualize things,
Mhm.
but also being really good at communication too. It's the people who are not here in the business anymore tended to be the ones who didn't want to talk to clients, who found the
Right.
clients to be an inconvenience in their relationship with the furniture. So
Yes.
you do have to be a little bit of a people person to
Mhm.
to really, I think, do well.
I agree with you. And it's that always surprised me when it was the stereotypical older upholsterer who was not, like you said, not really interested in dealing with people. Like, kind of need that because they're
Yeah.
attached to that furniture.
Yeah, they're attached to that furniture and that paycheck. So,
Yes, yes. So, speaking of the ability to visualize, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
well, I am young enough that I can say, barring some sort of natural disaster, probably right here.
Okay.
Things are, I like what I do. I enjoy being part of this business. I like seeing where things are going in decor trends.
Hmm.
I like the practical element of furniture. When I was in theater, I did have the opportunity to do costumes for a while, and that was not for me because
Okay.
the actors had a lot of opinions about what I was putting on their body, and they, I mean, they are entitled, of course, but
Right.
the furniture doesn't complain. So
No, we love that.
it is so nice. It just sits there and says, "Thank you for making me better." So, I enjoy almost all of this. So I would like to think we're going to keep going in another 5 years just like this.
Okay, I like that. So, where can people find you? What I will put links in the show notes to. Do you have a Facebook page and
Yeah.
Instagram? Okay.
Yes, I have both. So we are Rose City Upholstery on both Facebook and Instagram.
Okay.
We have a website as well, rosecityupholstery.com. And yeah, and also, a lot of student work and things that I am also passionate about. I also have a lot of social media presence with Upholstery Education as
Okay,
well.
which
So
I
that's
love following, by the way. I just never know what I'm going to see on that Instagram.
neither do I, and I'm the one doing it.
So I would love for you to tell us, Mandy, what advice would you give to someone who's new in the business or someone who has been in this business for a while?
I would say, learn to find the things in what you do that you enjoy and embrace them as much as you can, because it's not going to be that every day.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you love the fabrics, go, sell good fabrics, go to showrooms, see what they're
Mm-hmm.
offering. If you enjoy talking to people, embrace your customers. They love good stories. They come to you as much for learning from you as from getting a service from you.
Okay.
And, having those great relationships, one of the customers that I worked with probably about 10 years ago at this point, just came back to reupholster the set of furniture that I did for them the first time I met them. And having those returning customers and getting to see how they're doing, it's fantastic. It's wonderful. So embrace the things that you love about what you do, and you'll have a much better time at the shop every day.
I think that's great advice. Mandy, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure for me to get to know you better. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks, Seal.
I really hope that you enjoyed hearing from Mandy. It was really nice for me to get to know her a little bit. I met her in person at the Custom Workroom Conference, and we had discussed doing the podcast with the Upholstery Education owners. And as we were talking, I just thought, well, I need to know more about her. So I'm so glad that she said yes. And I love that her story is a little bit different than some of the rest of us, that she was working for someone and purchased their business from them. So once again, I'm reminded that while we all have similar journeys, they are not exactly the same. I really hope that you enjoyed hearing from Mandy today. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you have a great day.